Benjamin Albright, like he always does, puts out his top 12 mock draft, what he believes is going to go down. And before I get to this, it's an audio-only edition. I suggest everybody go check it out on Ben's feed. He is money as it relates to these predictions. He had Paris Johnson Jr. going to the Cardinals this time last year. He had them straight up passing on Will Anderson Jr., told us at the Combine they were going to pass and they were going to trade down, and told us at the Combine this year they love Marvin Harrison Jr. He has not backed off of that. Damon Dog, let's see Albright's mock draft. Now, it comes with some caveats here. He's got some notes. I'm going to read them here. But in this top 12-ish of mock drafts, of course, Caleb Williams to the Bears, that's a lock. He believes, Bo, the Commanders are going to probably go with Jaden Daniels, although Drake may not. J.J. McCarthy could make that uncomfortable. Okay, so he feels really confident about the first two picks. But then he gets to the Patriots, and he's saying right now it's a coin flip, whether or not they take Drake May or they trade down. He says it changes every day. So maybe the Vikings are getting to the Patriots to some degree. I think that would be a mistake. If Drake May is good enough for the Vikings, why isn't he good enough for the Pats? So in the sake of this mock, he does have the Patriots sticking and picking, which means that has no hesitation or reservation about this. If the Patriots, he believes, passes on a trade offer from the Minnesota Vikings, he thinks it's done with the Cardinals. Now, he didn't specify what that package looks like. We're going to be under the assumption it's the 3 1s, maybe plus something else. The Cardinals trade with the Vikings, who we know want to come up for J.J. McCarthy. Then, quote, they come back up either draft day or on the clock or whenever to get Marvin Harrison Jr. from the Chargers at pick 5. So what was just suggested in our super chat is a reality for Benjamin Albright in his mock. He says the Cardinals, we know this, quote, love Marvin Harrison Jr. He is their number one receiver unequivocally. So again, if you're scoring at home, in this mock, Bo, he has the Cardinals going from 4 to 11, then using ammunition, and we don't know what that would be, to go from 11 to 5. Jim Harbaugh gets the trade down that he wants. The Cardinals get the receiver they want, plus a little extra. So those first 5 picks, break it down. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, what he basically said about the Patriots is who's making the decision? Who's the decision maker for the Patriots? Is it Elliott Wolf or is it somebody else? Because, Wolf has been tied to McCarthy, and then said the Vikings are content with either one of them. They actually love multiple quarterbacks in this draft. So they would, even if McCarthy goes off the board at 3, that they would try to get up the draft board regardless at 4 to find their next franchise quarterback. And then how electric would that be? It would be devastating. And then at the very same token, like 10 minutes later, electric if the Arizona Cardinals pulled off the deal to get back up to 5 and then get Marvin Harrison Jr. I still am a little curious why, I understand that Jim Harbaugh wants to accumulate draft capital for the future, but the deal wouldn't rival what Monty Osfort would get potentially from the Vikings. But Harbaugh would just be content with getting whatever he could for 5, so he would drop to 11. It just seems a little unrealistic to me. Like if the Arizona Cardinals, they negotiate a deal with the Vikings for 3 first-round picks as the baseline, and then probably some change in there, that the Arizona Cardinals could pull off a deal the very next pick to get back up the draft board that's not just going to completely wipe out what you acquired from the Vikings?
I mean, I think you would give them a first next year and one of the first this year, right? Or maybe not. I don't even know. Let's talk it through. You get 11 to 23 in a 2025 1.
Right.
And you'd have to go then from 11 to 5. What are you giving up in that scenario? Are you giving up?
I think what people would assume is you would give up 11 and 23 and you would probably keep your future first and whatever day 2, day 3 pick you receive from the Vikings.
Yeah, I mean, in hindsight, it's best case scenario, but that's a lot of moving parts. And
but
again, something.
If you're a Chargers fan, if you're a member of the Chargers organization, you're dealing with the same thing that you and I have drawn the line in the sand on for the Arizona Cardinals.
But there's no QB tax now.
There is no QB tax, but there is the top player in it's like Jim Harbaugh said, it's like the number 1 pick in the draft. It's the number 1 non-quarterback on the board that you're gift wrapping, and you're giving at a discounted price, a discount price that's very apparent to everybody, because minutes before that, you're seeing what the price tag is to go from 11 to 4. and people are, Chargers fans are going to be like, what the hell? That's what you got for 5,
Right.
and it's just 1 pick difference?
Yeah, and you're trying to have your cake and eat it too. It's very risky. It's never been done before. Like, we're dealing in uncharted waters where the 4th pick has never been this valuable. And nobody, in my recent memory, I can't remember anybody trading down then trading back up the next pick. Like,
Right.
Again, you want to do that. If you're the Arizona Cardinals, you have to have your deal done with Minnesota like yesterday. And then you spend the next 3 weeks outlining a package for the Chargers that they feel comfortable with. But it's great on the surface. It's great. A free trip to Hawaii is great on the surface. And then you read the fine print and it's like, wait a minute here. Is this a Ponzi scheme? This feels like a Ponzi scheme.
Well, I mean, it's trying to bluff your way into that deal, right? Because really, the Vikings have to have the fear of God in them that some team's going to hurdle them potentially to get JJ McCarthy or draft JJ.
Real quick, to your point, Albright said unequivocally in the mock, if McCarthy falls to them at 6, they will take him.
The Giants.
Like that's happening.
He also said he didn't think that the Giants were willing to pay to get up the draft board, that they were just going to sit at 6. So it's just like, if you're a general manager and you're working the phones and like Benjamin Albright, who's an NFL insider who I trust, right? If he knows this, I would think that people who are in a front office position in the NFL would know that the Cardinals, one, love Marvin Harrison Jr. They're not going to take a quarterback. We know that, right? And then we also know that the Giants aren't going to come up. So, like, if you're the Vikings, like, do you call their bluff and maybe just work out a deal? Work out a deal with the Chargers, and you're not paying, the premium tax.
I mean, it's probably what they're figuring out right now. I mean, in all honesty, like, that's what's happening.
Yeah.
But Albright's adamant that there will be a trade for McCarthy within the top 5 picks.
Yeah.
3, 4, or 5.
And I believe that, because you're right.
Yeah.
Like, if the Giants can sit around and do nothing and they can have a franchise caliber quarterback fall in their lap, they're not going to not take him. But at the same time, are they willing to pay the price to get up? Doesn't sound like it.
But if you're hardballing Minnesota and Minnesota's, they're like, you know what? We've heard the Giants are just going to stick and pick. Well, you can stick it to them real quick by saying, okay, New York Giants, give us your 3rd round pick for the rights to JJ McCarthy. And we like Malik Neighbors and Marvin Harrison Jr. the same. We're just going to get an extra pick.
Right.
The Vikings, to me, at the end of the day, they can call all the bluffs they want. Until the Cardinals pick is in and the clock runs out,
right,
they can't feel good about anything, because the Giants are there and they pose an immediate threat. And the Cardinals are the first team out of the top 3 top 4 that's not going to take a quarterback unequivocally. So they can dick around all they want. Cardinals could easily call up the brass for the Giants and say, we're going to give you a deal. This is 75% off. No QB tax. Give us your 3rd round pick. Why does it matter to us? We just had Malik Neighbors in the building. We love Malik Neighbors. We'll take he or Marvin, whatever's available. And then you call up the folks in Minnesota and you tell them what's about to happen.
I mean, then you're basically starting a war with the.
That's what they're doing right now. I'm assuming that's what they're doing right now. Let's get back to this top. This top 12 is wild. Not just with the Cardinals. So the Cardinals go hypothetically. Let's see it, Damon Dog. Hypothetically, they go from 4 to 11 back to 5. He didn't expand on compensation. We'll try to get Albright on the show before the draft itself to expand. But so the Cardinals get MHJ, the Chargers trade down, the Giants, again, they're going to take Malik Neighbors if he's there, or Marvin Harrison Jr., unless JJ McCarthy falls to them, or the Cardinals can find a way to do a deal with the Giants. So the Giants are going to go offense. They're going to go McCarthy or one of the 2 receivers. Then, I mean, he's going chalk for a little bit. He's got Joe Alt going to the Titans, saying the Chargers might be a little dicey on Joe Alt, Bo, and they have no issue going down into the early teens for an offensive lineman that they potentially want. But Titans and Joe Alt feel like a match made in heaven, as does, he said, Dallas Turner to the Falcons. He goes, edge rusher is expected. Dallas Turner or Jared Verse, which tells me, Bo, if you're considering an edge rusher here, you should also consider going from 8 to 11, because the Chicago Bears want to go offense. The Jets potentially want to go offense. So if
I don't necessarily agree with that. I think that after Chicago takes their quarterback 1-1, I think that they're in play for the first defensive player.
Well, okay. So let me back up for a second. I guess in my scenario, if the Cardinals go from 11 to 8 to take Rome Odunze, the Bears aren't going to take an offensive player because Alt and the 3 receivers are gone. So, yeah, I correct myself. So then you've got Bowers going to the Jets, which seems so trendy right now. I'm in disbelief that it's going to happen, but who the hell knows? And then this is kind of shocking. Alu Fashanu re-enters the equation as OT number 2 in this scenario, even though we saw the Chargers working out J.C. Latham extensively at Bama's Pro Day. Fuaga is a fast riser to everybody. And then he's got the L.A. Rams coming up from, 18 or 19 with the Broncos for Jared Verse, who, Jared Verse is re-entered the equation, I guess, is a top 15 pick. Basically saying that real quick to recap, the Raiders are not trading up. The Broncos would like to trade up. They don't have the ammo. So the Broncos' decision then is, let's trade back and get more assets. And then maybe you can justify a Bo Nix with the Rams pick, a Michael Penix Jr., somebody like that. So the Rams being aggressive coming up for an edge rusher. What are your thoughts on these picks?
My head is spinning.
It's wild, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. It is. And like once you thought that maybe the draft might kind of ease into what we've been looking at all off season long, all draft season long, like, no, not so fast. It's going to get even crazier with all this moving and shaking, getting up the draft board. It is a wild scenario that Benjamin Albright has outlined, but he's probably got some sort of insight that, the Rams really like what the pass rusher out of Florida State brings and Jared Verse, and especially with he's right there in Denver, covers this team, the Denver Broncos, firsthand. That if a couple, the first 4 quarterbacks are off the board, Sean Payton and George Payton are going to get at it. Yeah, they're going to drop down and they're going to try to accumulate more assets and get into that as they kind of are in the beginning of a rebuild.
Threw around, Quinyon Mitchell. He threw around Terrion Arnold for that pick, which if you're a Broncos fan, like how many corners do you need to still suck? You have Patrick Surtain. Like what's another corner going to do for you? But to each their own, I guess. In attack, that's what I'm saying. Like this is a receiver tackle rich draft. I don't want to talk to anybody about a corner in the top 12 to 15. Like you can always sell me on pass rusher if you believe that they're special, but I don't know. It's wild. I'm going to tell you what else is wild. That if that happens with the Cardinals scenario and they're able, you come away, any scenario you come away with Marvin is great, is elite. You come away with Marvin and an extra pick that you did not have. I mean, like Austin Ford enters like the legendary status that he's taken on Twitter after that flight plan video reemerged. Like, at that point, like, do people even take his phone call anymore? He's become a savant with trading and trading up, trading down. He'll have done it in back-to-back years, which I checked this out, has not been done in the modern NFL era. Never has a team traded out of the top 10 and traded back up in the same top 10 in back-to-back years. It's the first time that would ever have been done.
I mean, the 31 GMs start ghosting him. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I think so. Now, this year it's different. We outlined it yesterday. Why? Everybody will take Austin Ford's phone call because what? Because he has all the picks. And these teams that want extra picks, of course. But like in future years when we're just playing with chalk and they've got 1 through 7, like nobody's taking his call.
No, you don't want it. He's like the guy. He's the killer in Scream, right? Like if he's calling you, it's bad news on the other end of that line.
You're Drew Barrymore in the open.